Today, I have a few things that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to do an update on my personal weight loss challenge. I'm going to be talking about my gut health, and I'm going to be talking about digestive flexibility. Hi there, my name is Sue. Welcome to my channel. If you have not been here before, I've been eating a carnivore diet now since May of 2022. And although I've had some really good health benefits with this way of eating, my weight loss has been slow, and so I've set myself a challenge to get rid of this weight this year. And so today I'm doing a little bit of an update on that. So where am I at? In January and up until kind of the middle of February, I was down a bit over 3 kilos all up. And then I went away on holiday. So I went away on holiday for 8 days. We just went camping. It's basically the first proper holiday that we've had probably for 7 years, and I was determined that we were going. It was my birthday that week, and we had our 40th wedding anniversary at the beginning of February as well, so it was a bit of a celebration thing for both of those, and it was good. We really enjoyed it. But while we were away, I regained about 1.5 kilos. It wasn't really because I was eating anything too drastically bad. I didn't have any ultra-processed foods or anything like that. I did have blueberries every day while we were gone. Quite a lot of blueberries with cream. I was eating 2 meals a day, so I was eating more food than I usually do or have been, so that was probably part of the reason. What I found was that I was really struggling the first few days in particular. It was wet the first couple of days that we were there, so we were sitting around in the tent a lot. And what I found was that I was feeling really bored, and I didn't take my laptop or anything with me. So at home, I keep myself pretty busy, I guess, even if I'm not doing much. I have a lot of ways of distracting myself, put it that way. And while we were away, what I noticed was that in those first few days, I was really struggling with my mental state a little bit, and with not eating and the thought of not being able to eat other foods. I don't usually have that problem too much at home, but I realised that I associate going on holiday with eating things that I wouldn't normally eat. Going down the road and getting an ice cream, going out for dinner, having takeaways, might occasionally grab a gluten-free pizza or something. And to go on holiday and not be doing that, I actually found really hard. For the first few days, I watched what was going on in my head, and I found myself getting quite agitated, a bit moody, a bit pissed off, just really struggling with that, and so I thought that was interesting. Towards the end of the week, I did succumb to a couple of things. We went to a farmer's market the day before we were coming home, and there was a lot of fresh fruit, homegrown fruit, grapes and loads of plums and things. So I bought us both a plum. There was these great big plums about this size, fortune plums I think they're called, and they were $1 each, so I bought us one of those each, and we sat at the markets and we ate that. Immediately I could feel my change of state, because I'd been in ketosis for a few weeks at that stage pretty consistently, and within a few minutes, it didn't take long, I could feel my change of state, and I thought, well, that's interesting. So we did that, and in those last few days we also bought a bottle of wine, and we shared that over 4 days, I think. For me, I have about that much in the bottom of a 500ml glass filled up with sparkling water, so it's basically wine flavoured sparkling water. And I had one of those each day for 4 days, and Hubby drank the rest of the wine. And then on the way home, this was probably the biggest spoke I think, because I'd been so good on holidays. On the way home, we stopped at a fruit and veggie place come nursery that I'd seen on the way through to get some daikon radish, because I had Chinese cabbages ready to make some kimchi, and I didn't have any daikon, and I'd seen the sign on the way through saying that they had daikon radish, so I had said to Hubby, we'll stop there on the way back. So when we stopped there on the way back, they had homegrown grapes as well. So I bought a little container of those, and then Hubby wanted some watermelon, so we bought just a piece of watermelon. And so over the next couple of days when I came home, I had a few grapes, and I had just a couple of little pieces about that size of watermelon. So when I weighed myself, I was up about 1.5 kilos. And so last week I started doing PSMF, protein sparing modified fast. I thought I'd give that a go again because it had popped up in my feed. I'd seen Courtney Luna talking about it, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll give that another go. So I did 3 days of protein sparing modified fasting, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and then just ate normally on the other days. I was down by a kilo by the end of the week, so that's okay. And so I've had 2 days of normal eating over the weekend. Today's Monday. I'm back doing a protein sparing modified fast today. I'm finding that I'm actually really hungry. My ketones have been crap, and I don't know whether it's the PSMF, whether it's just I'm not eating enough fat or what. So I thought I'll stick with the PSMF this week, see how it goes. And then I've got some stuff happening over the next couple of weeks because I've got a family event this weekend coming, and my sister's coming from overseas and she's going to come and stay for a few days. So things are going to be a little bit all over the place again. But once she's gone, then I will decide whether I carry on with the PSMF or whether I go back to what I was doing prior to that, which was not too dissimilar, but I was doing alternate day fasting with just a 500 calorie day fast every other day. And I was getting quite good results with that prior to going on holiday. So I'll decide what I'm doing, because with the fasting, I was still having a little bit more fat, I think, on those fasting days. So yeah, and maybe that works better for me for keeping my ketones up. I'll see how I go this week. So that's where I'm at with my weight, is that I'm still down 3 kilos from the beginning of January, but I would really like it to be happening faster, so I need to stop mucking around and messing things up. But life happens, and as long as I'm headed in the right direction, I'm happy. I'm keeping an Excel spreadsheet of my weight and my blood glucose and my ketones and notes so that I can actually remember what I'd been doing and my thoughts with different things. And when I looked at that yesterday, I was like, okay, what was I doing before I went away on holiday? And I couldn't actually remember. But then I looked at it today and I went through my notes properly, and that was when I realised that I'd been doing the fasting, the 500 calorie days. And I had also stopped dairy, of course, at the beginning of January, where I've just this week started having embroidery yogurt again. I'll see how that goes. I'm not sure whether the dairy makes a difference, but I'll find out, because I've got ketone strips and glucose strips again now, so I can have a little bit of a play and see how much it's affecting me. Now, I'm still using the allulose every day, and I think that is still helping to keep my glucose down, and I think that it probably helped me to stop gaining as much weight as I might have gained while we were away on holiday. And so I'm still happy with the allulose and still happy with what that's doing at this point. Something else that I had mentioned in one of my videos, but I hadn't really said what I was doing, was that I had decided to try the Pendulum brand of Akkermansia muciniphila. If you're not aware of it and haven't come across it before, it actually is a bacteria that breaks down and rebuilds the mucus lining in our small intestine. And it was something that Dr. Davis had talked about in his Super Gut book, and if you've not come across that book, I'll link to that below the video. It's a good read if you have gut issues. And so I've been thinking about trying Akkermansia, and I decided to bite the bullet, and I started taking it 2 months ago. And so I've been on it just about 2 months, but I've just stopped taking it. The reason for taking it was because of the whole gut health side of things, but also there's research on it that shows that it can help with blood glucose levels and metabolic health. So I thought it might be worth trying. But what I found was, when I started taking it, my gut played up a little bit initially, and then it settled down. But then I started having problems with itching on this arm. It's just my left arm. And this is something that's been a problem for me in the past. So back in my 30s, probably my mid 30s and late 30s and early 40s, I had problems with this arm, just this left arm, getting itchy at night time. It would drive me nuts. There was nothing to see that it would stop me from getting to sleep, and back then I had less things in my arsenal, and so I would end up getting up and putting like frozen peas or something on it to settle it down so that I could get to sleep. It would play up in the summertime, and it was always when the weather was hot. And I didn't know why that was. I eventually got rid of it by taking a probiotic. It was a probiotic that a company that I was involved with started making, and I started taking this probiotic when it was released, and 6 weeks later, the itching was gone, and then I didn't have it for years. And then, over recent years, I've had it just a little bit off and on, but not bad. It would come and then it would go again. I figured it was something to do with histamine because I've had so much issue with histamine since I've been on the carnivore diet. Now, when I started on the Akkermansia, the itching kind of came back, and it was happening every night. I'd have dinner and it would get itchy. And it was getting worse. I thought, it might come to a head and kind of pass maybe, and that's why I stuck with the Akkermansia for the 2 months. But then I noticed over the last week or so that I was having more problems with anxiety and other histamine issues. The other histamine issues, itchy eyes and things, had been gradually getting worse. So I think the Akkermansia was actually raising my histamine. So I stopped it a couple of nights ago, and the itching has straight away, there was a difference. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this probiotic product. It's me, it's the way that my gut responds to things. And that's the next thing that I want to talk about in this video, is my gut and digestive flexibility. So I hadn't actually ever come across the term digestive flexibility, but it's just something that popped into my head when I was writing out the notes for this video. I thought people talk about metabolic flexibility, which is our ability to flick backwards and forwards between burning glucose and burning fat, which my body seems to struggle with. And I thought digestive flexibility is something that we should naturally have as well, because humans have never just eaten meat, they've never just eaten plants, they've always eaten some of each, and we should be able to eat both without issue. I wholeheartedly agree that a meat-centric diet, mostly meat diet, is our natural human diet, but humans, as I spoke about in my video just the other day about the living carnivore diet, humans have always eaten some plants. They've eaten the chyme out of the stomach of the animals. In more recent thousands of years, they fermented vegetables, and if there wasn't animals, they would have eaten plants. They're Australian Aboriginal. They still live a fairly traditional lifestyle, some of them. Their diet is known, and there was always plants that they ate. So this is the way that humans have historically eaten. And if we have moved onto a carnivore diet, a mostly meat diet, and we can't add any plants in without suffering, then there's a problem. That's my thoughts. And so I actually looked up the definition of digestive flexibility, because I didn't know whether it was something that was talked about, but it is. There's studies on different animals and their digestive flexibility. And with regard to humans, I put it into ChatGPT, and this is what it said. Digestive flexibility refers to the body's ability to efficiently digest and utilize different types of fuel sources, proteins, fats and carbohydrates without discomfort or metabolic dysfunction. That means your digestive system can seamlessly switch between burning fat for energy, ketosis, and using glucose when needed, while also handling various food sources without bloating, sluggishness, or digestive distress. That makes sense. My digestive system is so not flexible. My husband's is. My husband eats a mostly meat diet, but he eats some sourdough bread that we make here at home. He eats some fruit off and on, and if we go out somewhere, he can sneak in little bits and pieces just occasionally without really suffering. It might make him feel a little bit crappier the next day. He might notice a little bit of something, but nothing major. I have a friend whose father is carnivore and has been for years, and I've met her dad out at a couple of events over the last couple of years. He was at one we were at a couple of weekends ago, and on his plate when he's out, he will have some salad and vegetables or bits and pieces. And I spoke to him about it at the first event because we were talking about the carnivore diet, and he said he might feel a little bit less healthy than usual the next day, a little bit sluggish or whatever, but he doesn't suffer for eating those foods. So he has digestive flexibility, and that is the way things should be. And my thoughts are, for those of us who are eating a carnivore diet or a meat-centric diet, if we can't add anything in without really causing ourselves problems, then there's a problem, obviously, with the digestive system. An example of this for me was last week when I made my first batch of embroidery yogurt again. I did a video showing how I make it, and you can go and check that out if you want to. I was using a new prebiotic for the first time. The prebiotics made by Cutting Edge Cultures, and they have really good products, and I have used their Algassery starter before, but I hadn't used their prebiotic mix. Now, when I looked at the ingredients on the prebiotic, it contains inulin, it contains acacia fibre, and it contains FOS, or fructooligosaccharides. In their starters, they also contain FOS. Now, when I saw that it had FOS in the prebiotic, I went, it should be right, because I've used this starter with FOS in it, and that's been fine, the Algassery starter, and had no problems. But I know that I bought FOS when I was doing Dr. Davis's Supergut protocol, and I couldn't take it. So he recommends having green tea and clove tea together with FOS to help to build the mucus lining in your small intestine. So when I was doing his protocol initially, I was doing the green tea with cloves. I tried the FOS, couldn't have it, but I couldn't remember how much it affected me. I just knew it affected my gut. My whole digestive system was pretty all over the place back then, and so I probably knew that the FOS had affected it, but didn't pay attention to how much. So I've still got a bottle of FOS up in the cupboard. In the green tea, instead I used acacia fibre because I'd had some of that in the pantry, and the acacia fibre was fine. So when I looked at the prebiotic blend, I thought, inulin I'm fine with, the acacia fibre I'm fine with, and I've had FOS in the Algassery starter recently, so it should be fine. So I made the embroidery yogurt, and when it was ready, I had some that first night, and within an hour or two of having dinner, I was literally running for the toilet, and I haven't done that for quite a while, and I was just like, what the hell? And I'm thinking, is it the yogurt? It can't be the yogurt, because I made embroidery yogurt not that long ago and I was fine. There was nothing else that I had eaten that was different apart from that. So I was like, it has to be the FOS. And so I was back and forward to the toilet with diarrhea, very urgent diarrhea. And then when it finally settled down, I got to bed, and then the next day I had diarrhea again in the morning, and I was just feeling ill for over half a day. I had not too many clients that day, one or two I think. It was a quiet week last week, thankfully. On that day, I took everything. I took charcoal, slippery elm, gut health product that I take, ginger, peppermint. I just had to throw everything at it because my gut had not been that bad for quite a long time. So the FOS definitely upset me, whereas hubby had a little bit of loose bowel motion the next day, and then he's been eating it every night since, and he's fine. I made another batch of that embroidery yogurt without the prebiotic in it. I just used inulin as I had been before, and it's fine, no issues at all. So I've been looking more into bowel issues. It's pretty much a constant for me, but when something like that happens, it gets me looking more, because my gut is so good most of the time now. As long as I stay in my lane, stick with what I normally do, it is generally really good. I'd had quite a few weeks without a hitch, without a problem, and then that happens, and it really messes with my head because it takes me so by surprise. I wasn't expecting that. Thank God I'm at home where these things happen. If I was out somewhere, at someone else's house or out somewhere, it would just be mortifying, because trying to get to a toilet in time was very touch and go, I can tell you. And so I stumbled across a video with a guy named Steve, I think his name is, from healthygut.com, and he has got amazing information. Steve talks about stomach acid, he talks about digestive enzymes, and he talks about butyrate, and he makes a lot of sense. His history is much like mine with the whole diarrhea side of things. He's had embarrassing accidents on buses because he was working in the city in Chicago or somewhere, I think, and so he had a lot of distress caused by his bowel when he was younger, and he ended up working out how to sort it out himself, because like me, wasn't getting any help from any doctors or anything. It's a case of healing yourself and finding the right information, and he was lucky he did that a lot earlier than I've managed to. So what he says is that if we're suffering with bowel issues, diarrhea, constipation, there are three things that tend to go wrong. Sometimes it can be all three, sometimes it can be just one or two of them. The lack of stomach acid is the first thing, which I knew from looking into SIBO. I think I've spoken on past videos where I mentioned the fact that I had a lot of issue with my gut when I was in my teens and 20s and ended up being diagnosed with an over-acid stomach and was put onto a drug to lower the stomach acid, which I think was probably a mistake because generally it's low stomach acid that's the problem, not too much. And so then that sets you up for SIBO. I was on that drug for about 2 years before I finally came off it, and so I've had continuing gut issues ever since. It certainly didn't cure anything, it just helped to manage the symptoms while I was on it. I still suspect that maybe stomach acid is a thing. I did take HCl butane for a while earlier in the piece on my carnivore journey. It definitely helped, but I always had this thinking you shouldn't have to keep taking these supplements, and he actually talks about that in some of his interviews, that everybody wants to get off all the supplements. That was one of my things when I first started on carnivore. I thought I'm going to stop all my supplements, and I did. It didn't last very long because things got really bad, and so I had to start taking some stuff again. He says things like the HCl butane, he took it for 4 years and then started having burning in his stomach and realised that he didn't need it anymore because over the 4 years it had obviously basically resolved his low stomach acid problem. And so that's what he said. He said sometimes people need to take it for a year or 2 years or longer, and some people need to take it forever, just depending on what's going on. The same with digestive enzymes. You might just need them for a period of time, and then your body might end up making its own enzymes properly again and being able to do it itself. But then for some people, when they're older, they might need to keep taking digestive enzymes forever because there is some thought that we have a limited amount of digestive enzymes, and if we use those when we're young, then we can be lacking in them forevermore when we're older. So that can be a thing as well. And then the butyrate. I've heard of butyrate, obviously, because it's in butter and it's talked about in the carnivore community for healing the gut. But what he's saying is that there is no research that shows that there is anywhere near enough butyrate in butter to resolve problems, especially severe problems that have been going for a long time. He said that our bodies make butyrate, the microbiome makes butyrate, at the top of our colon and at the bottom of our small intestine. And we are supposed to make between 5 and 7 grams of the stuff a day. When we're lacking in butyrate, that's what can really cause the diarrhea issues, not so much with the constipation, but more with the diarrhea, I believe. And it can cause histamine issues as well. So I was like, okay, his description of what happens there really made sense to me and really set off some light bulbs. So I have ordered some HCl butane again. I've ordered some digestive enzymes, and I've ordered some butyrate product, not his ones, because even though his products apparently are amazing and get really good results, they're just too expensive for me because it's US dollars and our exchange rate at the moment is horrible, like we're almost double New Zealand dollars for US dollars, so I just can't even go there right now. So he did mention another butyrate product in one of his videos that he said he likes, so I managed to get that here in New Zealand. And I looked at some other butyrate products online that have quite good reviews, so I'll pop links to some of those below, and then if you want to try this, you can check it out yourself. If you're someone who really suffers with diarrhea or histamine issues, the butyrate might be worthwhile trying. Reading the reviews on some of these products is quite inspiring. What he said is that the butyrate, for anybody who has diarrhea issues, it will pretty much nail it within days, and so it can really make a huge difference and really quickly. I wish I'd known about this 3 years ago or even longer, but yeah, it can apparently make massive differences very quickly. Definitely going to try that. So all of these 3 products are probably going to arrive pretty much at the same time. I don't want to start them all at the same time. I thought I'll probably try the butyrate first and see how that goes, and then I'll gradually introduce the other 2 as well and just see how my digestive system responds, because I know to take it slowly with my gut because it just does weird things sometimes. The other thing with the butyrate was, as I was reading reviews on some of the butyrate products, there was someone who had said that they had always had really bad scalp issues, so psoriasis, itchy, flaky scalp, right? And so I've had this itchy, flaky scalp thing going on my scalp since about 6 months into my carnivore journey. I did a video about it probably, I don't know, over a year and a half ago, if you want to go and check that out. Now, what's happened with my scalp is that it has gradually been getting better, and it is probably 98% better than it was. It was really bad for a very long time. Flaky, itchy, flaky, like you wouldn't believe. Just skin off my scalp everywhere, all over my computer keyboard, all over my chairs, my clothes, in the car. I've got black leather seats in the car. It looked like someone had tipped a salt container on the seat. That's how bad it was. So this was pretty wild. But I had just persevered with it, knowing that my body was probably feeling something. I didn't know why it was happening. I thought maybe it was oxalate. Wasn't really sure. At one point, my whole scalp felt like shark skin. It was just rough, like it was all covered in sand, and it was just been crazy. But now it's got to a point where most of my scalp is fine. I get a little bit of lumpiness across the occiput, across the base of my skull, and a little bit of scaliness above my ears, and that's about it. Some days it's worse than others still, but it's not bad. Now, this woman said in her review of this butyrate product that butyrate cleared up her scalp. She didn't realise it. Her doctor or naturopath or whoever put her onto butyrate for her bowel issues, and she said it really helped her bowel issues, and so she was on it for a while. Her scalp cleared up at the same time, but she didn't connect the two, and then she stopped taking the butyrate and her scalp issue came back, and so she went back off the butyrate and her scalp issue went away again. So what I'm picking is that for me, as my bowel has got better, my scalp is getting better because my body is starting to at least make some butyrate. I eat quite a lot of butter as well, which may be part of it, but I don't think it's a huge part, because otherwise, when I first started on Carnivore and was eating lots of butter, it would have been more beneficial. But I'm picking that it's an indication that my body is starting to make some butyrate. So it's going to be interesting when I start on this butyrate product to see if my scalp clears and how quickly it does. So the thing is, as Steve pointed out in the interviews that I've watched with him, is that our problem is when we have gut issues and these things going on, the problem is not the food. I've been doing this for decades, eliminating different foods because this food upsets me, and if I take it out, then my gut's a bit better. But the problem is in the food, unless it's ultra processed food, that's a whole different thing because it's not food. But if we're eating real food, meat, fruits, vegetables, just single ingredient foods, they shouldn't be a huge issue for our bodies. But when they are, it's because our digestive systems are not working properly and our body just can't handle it. My thoughts are those people who are on carnivore diets that want to reintroduce some foods and can't, it's going to be one or more of these problems. So it's going to be stomach acid, it's going to be digestive enzymes, or it's going to be butyrate. And so addressing those things can get us hopefully back to a place where we can introduce other foods and not be suffering for it. As I said, my husband, he can eat other things and not suffer. My friend's dad, who's been carnivore for years, he's amazing, he's 78 and he still runs up the mountain. He can eat other foods and they don't make him suffer. That's the way we should be. We should have digestive flexibility, and if we don't, there's something wrong. So many people come to carnivore with digestive issues, and some people don't even realise they've got digestive issues because they might have had other health issues that have led them to carnivore. But their occasional constipation or their occasional diarrhea or their little bit of heartburn, they don't realise that there was actually something serious going on in their gut because it wasn't affecting their life drastically. And so they just know that carnivore has helped them, but if they try to reintroduce some plants into their diet, it causes a return of their symptoms. Removing foods that are a problem is just basically symptom management without actually healing. And if your body hasn't got the capacity to sort out whatever's going on. I mean, some people do. Some people, they go into carnivore and everything heals and they can potentially bring in some other foods, but then some of us can't, and some of us actually need some more help. I believe that a meat-centric diet, whether it's carnivore, living carnivore, whatever, ketovore, is the proper human diet and is key to health. It's the thing that underpins everything. But we should have digestive flexibility as well as metabolic flexibility. And my thoughts about the experience that I had last week with the FOS and the yogurt is that FOS comes from plants. It is usually sourced from chicory, sometimes other things. I have chicory in my dandelion coffee that I drink, and it doesn't cause me any problems, but obviously there was a bit more in there and my body just couldn't handle it, where my husband was fine with the FOS and had no problems. So digestive flexibility is obviously something that we should all have, and if we don't, then it's maybe something that we need to address, especially if we've been eating a meat-based carnivore type diet for a reasonable period of time and we still can't introduce any plants without suffering. So that's my thoughts for today. That's my update on where I'm at. If you have any comments or questions, pop those below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. I'll pop links to anything that I've talked about in the video below if you want to go and check those out and read reviews and see what sort of results people have had with these products. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe and share with anyone who might be interested. I thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.